So I'm back, and today we are going to be counting down my top 10 of my least favorite overcomplicated Transformers that I own. There obviously were others that were worse than some of these, but I got rid of them. Now, some of these is going to be like a team. A small group of figures that are just like, where it's like individually they're not that bad, but when you sit there and try and do the whole set in one go, really pisses you off. And just those overly complicated that just really didn't need to be that bad. So, getting things started, an honorable mention actually, and that would be Hexa Truck. Now, why is this guy an honorable mention? It's because he's a six changer. He should be complexed. He should be difficult to put together. He's not that hard, but because of all the modes, trying to do all the modes in one go gets really frustrating and really irritating. But I forgive him because he's a six changer and the figure is awesome. So that's the honorable mention figure. First up on my list is going to be again, some of these aren't that complicated, but they get frustrating when you're doing an entire set. So the first one, number 10, is going to be Perfect Effects Reflector. And I know what you guys are thinking, like, what? Why would these guys be on this kind of list? Well, my issue with them is that they're so small. I mean, they've got little tiny knives and stuff. And you have to part form pretty much the entire set. And as cool as they are, I did not like them that much because of the price and the size. But ultimately, because they're so small and part formy, and certain pieces don't quite fit, perfectly, and it's just so small, and it feels fragile at times when you're putting them in camera mode. When you're getting them into robot modes, it's not bad, but getting them into camera mode, it's just horrifying. Horrible. And it aggravated me. If you're spending that much money on a figure, you'd think that you wouldn't have to do so much parts forming. And like I said, it gets frustrating. So that's number 10. Number 9 on the list is going to be another set, and that is the Fans Project Insecticons. Now, individually, these guys aren't bad, and in like his case, he's a lot of fun to mess with. But if you do all three at once, it gets frustrating. It gets to the point of, oh man, this isn't fun anymore. And it's even worse with if you have the armor battalion too, and you're doing all 6 at one go. Yeah, especially him. He's really fidgety. He's got a lot of little parts that got to fold just right, and then like the daggers keep falling off, and it's like, ugh, it's aggravating. So that's my number 9 pick for most aggravating, overcomplicated Transformers. Number 8 is going to be Orion. Now he's not too bad. Not as bad as some of the others. The bottom half is so good. The transformation is so unique and so awesome, and it just flows. It's really fun to do. The top half, because of all the little panels and the little tabs that have got to go everywhere, it's it becomes not fun. I think they could have simplified the top half a little bit better, or try to engineer it like they did the bottom half. Because, like I said, the bottom half's engineering is just perfect. It's exactly what I look for in a Transformer, especially something this expensive. But the top half, it's so panely, and I hate those little panels. So, number 8. Number 7 will be Warbot Assaulter. He's a triple changer, so he should be a little bit more complex, but he does at times get really fiddly, and all those little pieces have to fit just right, and it gets aggravating again. The difference between him and a lot of other figures on this list is the end result for robot mode is just so cool. I mean, this guy is awesome looking. I love this figure. It's one of my personal favorites. But he is aggravating to transform. If you remember my review of him, you could tell I was getting frustrated and exhausted from transforming him. So, that's number 8. Right? 8? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, I guess. Yeah, 10, 9, 8, 7. 7, sorry. This is what happens when you work for 72 hours and then decide to do a review. So that's number 7. Number 6 is going to be the Make Toys Giant Team. Now, again, these guys aren't too difficult on their own, but he's got a couple moments of but the real winners of the overly complicated and not quite worth it ones are these two, Long Haul and Scrapper. They're just overly fiddly, and I mean, some of the transformations is really cool and unique, but it really does detract from the figure. It gets frustrating, especially if you decide, I'm going to just take the whole set and transform it from vehicles to robots to the assault mode. It gets daunting and not fun. So, and as I've said before, I am trying to get the Hercules set to compare the two. Somebody was selling one on eBay, and I just got all my money from some stuff I was selling, including like Orion and Fallen. And right before I was able to buy it, somebody bought it, and it was $410 for the full set. I was like, damn it. Yeah. I'll try and figure out something else out. But yeah, I am planning on getting that set so we can compare them. But these two are a nightmare. If they weren't in the set, these two would be on the list. At least him. He's got some major fidgety parts going on. So that is 6, right? Let's see, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Yep, 6. So that's number 6. Number 5. Now we're getting into the real guys. Universe 2.0 Galvatron. And again, it's not that he's too overly complicated. It's just the big rumor was that he was supposed to be a Voyager figure. And if you were a Voyager, a lot of the parts would have worked a lot better. Things would have moved smoother. It just would have gone together a lot easier. And good luck transforming this motherfucker without something falling off. You are going to have a part fall off. Be it the legs, who are on these really tiny little plugs that really don't peg in. They're supposed to, but because they're too small, they don't hold on there very well. These back panels pop off real easy. Again, I mean, you can't even see, you can barely see the little nubs that they're supposed to connect in there. So, he's not fun. I really, really do not like transforming this guy because of how fidgety he is and how much he falls apart. You know, almost he falls apart as easy as Universe Ironhide. That one's not on this list because he's so much worse. Alright, number 4. It's actually going to be 2 figures. Now, these aren't a team or anything, but this is the Deluxe Ratchet and the Deluxe Ironhide. Now, the reason why these guys are here is because this is where, you know, they had Voyagers that worked really well for their figures. The Ironhide was a little complicated, but not that bad. You know, he kind of, you know, you could figure it out. That's why he's not on the list. He's an absolute nightmare, and I got him into robot mode after I bought him, and I still have yet to be able to get him back into car mode. And I'm a firm believer that, for the most part, when it comes to Hasbro Transformers, if you need the instructions, there's something wrong. And these guys needed instructions, and I didn't keep them. And that's my fault. But these guys have so many little tiny little plates that need to fit in just right angles, and it's just becomes such a nightmare. I absolutely hate these things. They just want me to pull my non-existent hair out. It is that bad. These guys absolutely suck. They're some of the worst Transformers I've ever played with, and they're almost impossible to transform unless you have the instructions. And it's just, so many little things have to fit just right to make it work. That's why I never did a review on this guy, because I could never figure the damn thing out. He's that bad, and so is he. They're just absolute garbage. They're the worst Transformers I own, and I will not sell these because one of these days I still plan on taking them out back and shooting them. Not kidding. That crash you hear is the bucket of junk Transformers. Which leads me into the next one that is on that list. This would be number 3 on my list of absolute nightmare Transformers, and that is Crossover's Venom. This thing's a piece of shit if I've ever seen it. He's got so many little tabs and panels, and it is just, this is clearly marketed to those kids, children who like the Spider-Man character, and they like Transformers, and they're like, oh, cool, it's all mixed together, but then they open it out of the box, and they're like, oh my god, this thing is just, the head's awesome. I love the head sculpt, but, this nightmare of a panel fuck right here, this thing is just, it's just terrible. They could have engineered this thing so much easier, and he is the worst Hasbro figure of all time, in my opinion, of the ones I own. I'm sure there's worse, but this thing is just so fiddly, and it's just impossible to get into any modes perfectly how they have it pictured, and I don't even think they had it pictured perfectly right. It just, no. Anyway. So, Number 2 on my list is Perfect Effects Warden. And he makes it on the list because, as you guys saw in my video, I mean, I had to go on construction. I mean, I was all over the place. This thing was really difficult. The end result is awesome, but getting there is so bad. You know, you get him packaged in robot mode, and had I known how much of a nightmare this thing was, I probably would have kept him in the package. I still highly recommend this figure. It's really cool. But the parts forming is a huge factor for me. And, you know, like, I don't mind the gun coming off and having to go somewhere else. That makes sense to me. But the fact, like, his big gun, when he turns into his cannon mode, is all tabbed together by these little tabs on these things. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, it is some of the worst engineering I've ever seen in a Transformer. And it is just... I mean, it's like they didn't try to make him a Transformer as much as they're like, oh, we can just take all these parts off here and rearrange them down here, and there we go. They really took a cheap way out, I feel. And he does aggravate the piss out of me. I mean, he is so cool, and they just... He was so close to being awesome. He's actually in my list of figures I hope I can replace at some point, even though he is as cool as he is, and I do recommend him. But I don't like having to sit there, you know, take this guy off the shelf like, oh, hey, I want to turn him into Fortress Maximus Heads mode. And you have to sit there and fiddle with him for the next hour. You shouldn't spend an hour to transform one fucking toy. Not cool. Not cool. The quality on this guy is amazing, though. And number 1. And you know what? If I was actually going to be a total dick about it, this would actually be like number 5 through 1. And I think everyone saw this one coming. This guy... There is no excuse for this. He is not... He's not cool. I don't like it. I mean, he's a... I'm happy I have him on my shelf, but... Okay, so... Let's break it down. Why he's the worst... The worst engineered Transformer of all time. And remember, this is my opinion. It's not fact that he's the worst Transformer ever. And it's not that he's bad like the Energon Megatron that I reviewed a long time ago that I smashed and then put back together. You know, he's not that bad when it comes to stuff like that. He's bad because of how many things I think they could have done so much better. So let's break it down. This guy right here is probably one of the best ones, but you still have to stretch the plastic, get him into car mode, or get him into robot mode. That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't have to stretch the plastic for any reason on any toy ever. And you have to do it with him and him. But he's not that bad. Overall, he comes out pretty good. Now this guy... he would make my list because you have to stretch the plastic, and unlike him, you can actually see the plastic breaking. You know, there's lots of stress marks starting where his legs are, and he's not going to hold forever. He just will not hold forever. The feet transformation on this thing is a nightmare. And good luck keeping the repro label stickers on there when you're doing the foot transformation. Yeah. Good idea, guys. Okay, so that's those two. Then there's him, who he's fiddly as fuck for the arm transformation into the hood. And it's not that bad because overall the look of the robot when you're done is worth it. The look of the robot in car mode is worth it. it takes a long time to get to those points because everything has to fit perfectly, and like the head transformation is just horrible. So yeah, he's not worth it. Then there's Dragstrip. He's definitely the fiddly one of the group, and he's garbage. That's all I can say. He's garbage. I mean, I've got so many pieces now that are so loose that, you know, I mean, look at this. Just from transformation, I have to wedge this thing into place underneath another plate just to keep it in place. You know, the fact that they engineered his tires to be the wrist movement, so you have no stability in his hand whatsoever. I mean, this one's not bad because you can pose the wrist. You know, you can do things, although he turns into a very thin arm. I mean, that's just stupid. And he just keeps falling forward. I mean, you kind of see that he's just slowly coming this way. And I don't know, and that's the ball joints on his feet. That's what that is. They don't hold in very well. So, okay, so there's the individual cars. So he would make the list, he would make the list, and he would make the list. Period. Then there's the overall figure. Getting him into combine mode. That's a nightmare on its own. You know, transforming certain parts. You know, bending the little hooks to fit on the cars. That's terrible. I hate that. Getting things into place, horrible. Getting these legs to stay put, horrible. Just overall, this figure is just not very well designed. I do not like it. There, I said it. I don't like it. Then there's Diesel. He is the king, the all-time undisputed champion of shit figures. His truck mode looks cool. His robot mode, not so much, especially armored up mode. That thing just is a nightmare. And it's not worth it. You know, you sit there and you fiddle with it for 40 minutes to get it from truck to robot, and then you spend another 20 minutes getting the armor up parts onto them, and then you spend another 10 minutes getting the armored up portions so that they're straight and pointing in the right directions, because everything fiddles all over the place. It's not cool. And then just transforming the piece of shit is it's so bad. The king of overly complicated figures. You know, I mean, yes, Giant has his problems. Yeah, when it comes to combiners, Giant has his problems. The Bruticus, the Fall Cybertron Bruticus has his problems. Okay. The Predaking. I'm not gonna be, over here saying, oh, they're flawless. No, he's got problems too. I mean, and I've addressed those. You know, the wings kind of just strip it out some parts, and things like that. And I agree, there's some quality control issues going on there. But that figure's going to stand on my shelf for a lot longer than this thing will, because this thing will break. Guaranteed. Something on the panel will snap on itself and just snap right off. If it wasn't for the fact that he's going to stay in this mode pretty much for the rest of my life, or until I sell him, there is no reason, or there's no way I'm ever going to take him off and be like, oh, I feel like playing with Minosaur today. Because I don't. And that, right there, my friends, is why he's the king. Because if you sit there and say, I don't want to take this toy off the shelf because I don't want to play with a toy, there's a problem. They're toys. They're meant to be transformed. They're meant to be taken off the shelf. They're meant to be played around with. I've played around with the Giant a few times. I enjoy it. To an extent. I mean, yeah, he still makes the list because he's fidgety as fuck, but in certain parts. The Insecticons, I've transformed those guys at least a dozen times since I bought them. and I only bought him last year. Galvatron, I even have more fun transforming than this guy. Anybody on my shelf, anybody, I will take off every now and then just to transform him, especially the assaults. I enjoy transforming Fall Cybertron Bruticus. I have fun with that. I enjoy transforming the Advanced Project Bruticus. That one's fun. The Seacons I don't mess with because they aren't very well engineered in comparison to today's standards. But anybody else I own, I will take off the shelf and I'll fiddle with. He's going to be fiddled with to an extent of, today I want him to have his armored up mode. Something like that. Or I'll take the headmaster off and play with him or something like that. He still has some fun aspects to him. He doesn't. There's nothing on here that, in my opinion, makes me want him taken off the shelf and play with him. If I sell him, there's no reason why I would ever want to buy him again. There's not a bone in my body that would sit there and be like, I miss him. Because I won't. And that's for as much money as we all put into this thing. That's really unfortunate because everything else from Fans Project I take off the shelf and I play with it. I enjoy it. But not him. Never him. I enjoyed Breakdown when I first got him. I really love that figure. He made it in my top 10 figures I've ever reviewed, about a year ago. I think he was actually number 1, if I recall correctly. But at the end of the day, he was not worth the price. And I've seen so many people that have reviewed him that agree with me on that. And then there's a lot of people that say, oh yeah, he's awesome, he's a great engineered figure and all this stuff. And I personally don't see it. I don't see... My only guess is maybe they're getting paid to say that or something like that. And I don't want to badmouth anybody by saying that, but that's my only guess because I don't know anybody that would enjoy this figure at all. And I've been rambling about this guy for a while now, but seriously, he's got problems. And this is not a... Oh, yeah, okay. For all my hatred of TFC toys, and you guys know I've never really enjoyed them. I think part of it was because the 2 figures I purchased when I first started, when I was like, oh, maybe I'll get into this Hercules set, were, kind of, everyone agreed that they were the worst of the set. So maybe I just picked up the wrong ones to start with, because I got their Mixmaster and their Bone Crusher, and I didn't like it. But even though I didn't like it, I love the way the arms for Devastator are designed. I think that was awesome. There's nothing on him that makes me go, this is at least cool. The fact that you have to click the legs in backwards and then rotate them around, it's a good idea. But they didn't pull it off because, as you saw in my video, I have difficulties getting those ports on and off sometimes. And I'm sitting there pushing and shoving and just dreading that moment when something snaps on this figure. You shouldn't have to push that hard, and sometimes you don't. So there's something in this figure that just isn't designed properly. And for, let's see, 60, or yeah, there was 60. So that's 120, 240 for the cars. For about $400 worth of figure. He's just way too overcomplicated, and the material isn't, Fans of the Project, they're not Hasbro, so they can't make figures that are as durable as Hasbro has. Yes, I know there are some Hasbro exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, Hasbro puts out better figures. Mastermind Creations, their plastics is better quality than their plastic. And to have to do some of these fiddly, panely little things it's not worth it. You know, in his review, I gave him a 5 out of 10, but I don't even know if I could stick with that. He's probably one of my biggest regret purchase on my shelves and of all time, because and you know, like the Fallen, I sold the Fallen because I'm not a fan of the figure. I don't like how things fall off so easily, and the parts forming. Sometimes parts forming works, sometimes it doesn't. He's parts forming, and some of the, like this part, it doesn't go anywhere. It just folds up on the back of his trailer. You know, somebody found a place that you can store it inside his semi-truck mode, and it just rattles around, and that's not a place to find it. You know, and it just there's just so much stuff. I can just keep going, but ultimately, he's my king of over fidgety crap, and I cannot wait until either Unique Toys or Mastermind Creations, if they're going to continue Gassalts, or TFC. I can't wait till one of them decide, oh, you know what, we can do this better, because they can. Bands Project, I'm sorry to say, get out of the combiner business right now. You have no right to be in there after this mess. Yes, they started us off great with the Bruticus set. And from what I've seen, the Aerial Bot set that they did, just the upgrade kit, great. I still don't want to spend $100 on that set when it was $25 when it first came out. You know, it's just ultimately, I can't recommend it. He looks cool in this mode to an extent, but all he is for me is a placeholder, and that's why he's king. And like I said, toys are meant to be played with, and if you fear playing with a toy because you don't want to sit there and try and figure out how to transform it for the next 10 hours, it fails as a toy. And I guess that's really all there is. So, question of the day is, first off, what do you guys think of my list? Am I way off base here? Am I crazy for putting people like him on here when he's still on the list, or do you guys agree with me to an extent? And also, what is your top 10 hated? Not hated. Hate is not a good word, because I don't hate this guy. I really like him. I think he's really cool. I don't hate these guys. I just can't, in good graces, recommend him because of the cost. And I do not hate Assaulter. But, okay. Which one do you think is the most fidgety and overcomplicated Transformers? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. What is your top 10 list? And obviously I didn't put Masterpiece figures on here. If I still had him, Rodimus Prime would have been on here, because that guy was... I had him when I first started doing this channel, and I ended up selling him before I did a review on him, because quite honestly I just didn't have it in me. I couldn't do it to myself. And in one more transformation he probably would have broke. So yeah, I didn't include any Masterpiece. The Ironhide, Igear Ironhide, yeah, he's got his moments of fidgety crap. But he, in my video of him, I took him right out of the package and just started transforming him. All I went on was some videos I'd saw a couple weeks prior. So I was able to figure it out on my own. Prowl, same thing. It's like, yeah, I was able to figure that out on my own. Yeah, he is very complicated, but there's complicated and then there's no purpose to the complication. Like him. There's a lot of parts of him. They could have made the entire Diesel figure so much better by making him more simple. Like Unique Toys did with the Razor Claw. They did not go overboard and make him, super complicated because they could. They went with simple, and simple worked for them, I think. So anyway, there's that video. I guess coming up, if I can get the Hercules guys, I will start that review. I might just buy a handful of them real quick, and because I got 400, I can at least get 4 of them, 3 or 4 of them, and then just kind of wait on the rest and go from there. But we are going to be doing some comparison videos with the Fall Cybertron Bruticus and the Fans Project Bruticus by request. So we'll re-review Bruticus, the Fans Project Bruticus, not the Fall Cybertron Bruticus, just because I've done him 3 times now. But I will show them off and do comparisons in between the two. And I'm actually I got a small whiteboard, and we'll be keeping tallies on. It's going to be kind of a test for when I do the Make Toys versus Hercules. But we'll keep tallies on which set is a better set. But hopefully before I start doing that, I'll get the Boost Kiss set in so that we can get the upgrades on there too. And yeah. I will be doing a top 10 of my favorite Autobots and a top 10 of my favorite Decepticons soon by request. So if you guys want to see anything else, let me know. Happy to oblige. Aside, don't ask me to transform this guy again. We're done. Anything else you guys want to see or anything like that, just let me know. And soon I'll be doing the Beast Wars episodes. Oh, and then I was also asked to do top 10 of my favorite Transformer Generation 1 episodes, so we'll get to that too. And I'm sure we'll get to we'll do the same thing for Beast Wars when we get there too. And then I still don't have Armada yet. There's a new set coming out, so I'm going to wait for that. And I still don't have a DVD player, so makes things a little awkward. But I guess that's it. I'm just rambling now.